Warning: there may be spoilers in this video you are about to enjoy. Proceed.
At your own risk.
So, let's talk about Off. I finished the game quite a while ago, and I have to say that it might be one of the strangest games I have ever played. And I've played Edmund Macmillan's Time for Cuck, like, all the way through, without stopping. Now, the reason why I've chosen now, as opposed to then, to do this game review about this incredible game is because, one, it was already up in text form somewhere within the bowels of the internet. Number two, the Off fandom seems to have miraculously disappeared just as quickly as it rose up, as if everyone pulled a Bilbo Baggins and slipped on the Ring of Power all at once. And three, well, I just recently remembered that I had this channel, so I figured we should get to work on it sooner or later. Now, Off is a game made by Mortis Ghost and his team Unproductive Fun Time in RPG Maker 2003. The game was originally in French, but was just recently translated to English by the Reconstructed game team. So there may be some things like parallels to other French tales or jokes that are lost in the translation that I probably didn't catch. If there are, in fact, any to be caught. But then again, maybe not. The first thing I want to point out is one of the first major things to happen in the game, which begins at the very start after you enter your name and all that junk. When you meet the judge, he's a talking cat. The judge refers to the puppeteer or something of the sort, and the batter refers to you by whatever name you put into the game before the load screen. In my case, it was Biggs. So not only are you playing the game, but from that first moment onward, you are personally an integral part of the story. It is a canon fact that you are controlling the batter within the world, and therefore share in the glory of his achievements, and also in the shame and anger towards him brought on by his misdeeds. Now that's some pretty messed up shit if you think about it. But I digress. From the first moment, bam, the fourth wall is broken, and Zachary the shopkeep makes references to the fact that it's just a video game several times throughout, and makes jokes about betting the batter that he can't get to the next zone before him, even though it's scripted and he'll always be there first. Which is pretty funny because at one point Zachary actually isn't there before the batter. I had a good chuckle at the silly salesman for that one. Ha ha! But despite this, the game retains something of an immersion factor, which is something that's, in my experience, very hard to achieve after breaking the fourth wall, especially when done so early and so consistently throughout. I mean, even near the end of the game, if you collect a bunch of doodads, Zachary will offer you the strongest bat in the game in exchange for them. Of course, he could be referring to the game of baseball, given that that's our protagonist's main theme, but I rather doubt it. I think what helps it retain its immersion is the fact that throughout most of the game, the batter is a bit of a mystery. We don't know who he is, where he came from, or why he's on a mission to purify the world at all. All we know is we're in control of a guy in a New York Yankees uniform that has some grudge against ghosts, a queen, and the overseers of the three zones whom it is his mission to eradicate in order to complete his quest. Speaking of fighting, the way the combat works in Off is like any other RPG, in the way that it offers attack, defend, item, and special moves options. The limiting factor on attacks is also something that you'll find in any old RPG, a reload bar that fills up with varying time frames, which makes for interesting combat in the beginning, but it all gradually becomes irrelevant. Once you get closer to the end of the game, if you level up enough, you basically become a golden god who loses next to no health no matter how many enemies are thrown at you. Luckily, the game provides a wide spectrum of different enemies to fight against as you trudge along through your mission, with compelling and creepy character designs, and no class of enemy is in any way similar to the last. That being said, the combat was extremely repetitive. Batter, attack, ring, attack, ring, attack, ring, heal, enemy phase, wash, rinse, and repeat. After the initial dazzle of the diverse and cleverly pencil and paper drawn enemies wears off, the combat's just so damn boring. The attack animations are nothing too fancy, and if you have the right weapons and armor, you can take out pretty much every enemy under the sun with your normal attack option. Forget all the hundreds of special moves that you and your 3 ring buddies get. I'm serious, the game gives you more special moves than you can swing a bat at. Ha ha. But it doesn't really give you any incentive to actually use them. Other than the healing moves, but let's face it, when are healing moves not useful? At the end of the game, when you become a golden god and takes next to no damage, is precisely when. At least they were sensible enough to give us the auto fight option so we could skip all that boring shit and get back to the interesting bits. Like the parts that bend your brain! Alongside the compelling story, the game tests your mind and memorization abilities with constant puzzles, mazes, secret passwords, lever pulling exercises, and floor panels that you have to pull and press in a certain order while dodging enemies that don't get annoying after the 4th or 5th or 6th time doing them. Twitch. Moving right along. The NPCs and their dialogue were also quite the trip. More often than not, you'll be talking to the Elsons. The majority of the NPCs in the off-universe are called Elson, to get directions and general info. When you're interacting with the Elsons, they are curt, quick, and to the point. Most of the time. But don't mistake that as lazy writing, because it's not. The Elsons as a whole are a very nervous and neurotic public, very shy and afraid of most things, including you, which is reflected really well in most of their dialogue and general temperament. It makes them very endearing in a way when they talk, because their sentences are riddled with ums and stutters while they look nervous on screen. However, there is a point in the game where they aren't afraid of you, and that has to do with the batter finding and wearing a standard black tie over his uniform. It's like some kind of camouflage to them. Weird. Okay, the ending of this game, and the lead up to it through the last few battles, really threw me for a loop. Starting with the battle with Sugar back in Zone 0. First of all, before I had even played the game, I had been exposed to a ton of Sugar Zachary, or sugary, pairing art around the vast interweb. And throughout my playthrough, I never understood what all the fuss was about, or how people even made that connection, since the characters didn't even interact. And it was almost the end of the game. Surely there couldn't be anything substantial here. The fandom was probably just going nuts with its shipping, as fandoms are wont to do. But as soon as that battle ended, my Kokoro went brokey. After your heart is effectively ripped out of your chest, you get the opportunity to talk to Zachary and save your game one last time, before the final trial of your quest begins. Having killed all of her overseers, it's time to go after the queen and purify the land once and for all. So, things to remember about Off. The story is fantastic. The characters are unique and memorable. Puzzles and brain teasers are always good. The combat is boring as all hell after the first hour. But it gives you the option to skip it and just watch. So, whatever. All in all, I'd say this game is a gem. And I highly recommend adding it to your collection. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.